I don't want to talk too much about the asshole getting Man of the Year, a Person of the Year, of course. Hitler got it, I think, twice. Stalin got it. Hitler got it in 1938, right before he invaded Poland. It began the bloodiest conflict in America, in human history, World War II. So Hitler was awarded Person of the Year. Well, back then it was called Man of the Year by Time magazine. This is before they invented women. And Hitler went on to bring his demonic fascism, his Christian fascism, to Germany until he was finally blew his own brains out in a little hidey hole in Berlin. Stalin, also a Christian fascist, although he fancied himself a communist, which he was not. Stalin, if you're not aware of this, Stalin had even, I think his mother had sent him to school to become a priest, of course, in the Russian Orthodox Church. Anyway, Stalin was named Person of the Year right before he destroyed Russia with communism. That's what he called it. It was actually a form of Russian fascism. So now we have Trump. Trump, the wannabe fascist in the United States. Do you suppose, possibly, since he and Hitler and Stalin had the same ideas, fascist governance, and look what happened to the first two. Well, Stalin died of a heart attack or something, or maybe he was poisoned. Hitler blew his brains out because he was a scum-sucking, well, no point going into that. So here we are, Time magazine. This is the second time Trump was made Person of the Year, and as Time has tried to explain over and over, they're naming someone Person of the Year, or as it used to be called, Man of the Year, was not an indication that Time magazine thought this person had done wondrous, great, good, beautiful things. It was because the person named as Person of the Year had such a profound effect on the world, but especially here in the United States. I mean, Lindbergh, an American Nazi, he was, I think in 1929, he was Man of the Year. So there have been all sorts of Nazis and fascists and bums and scum who have been named Man of the Year. Of course, now, Person of the Year, Trump doesn't get that. Trump sees being named Person of the Year as a glorious accolade where the heavens open and the angels sing and play their harps, and the Christian fascists in this country glorify in the fact that their Antichrist has once again, for the second time, been named Person of the Year. He most recently called for, in his words, quote, a virtual closure of Department of Education in Washington. That was during an interview with Time magazine, which was published today. This is the same copy that has him on the cover, right? And this is what he said in the interview, quote, according to Time, quote, you're going to need some people just to make sure they're teaching English in the schools. Okay, English and mathematics, let's say, but we want to move education back to the states, end quote. Now, when he was campaigning this Antichrist that the Christians in this country worship, he repeatedly pointed to the Department of Education as a symbol of federal overreach into the everyday lives of American families. Well, only if you are putting out a counter-narrative from education, which is religious horseshit. Then, yes, you would concede that the Department of Education was involved in overreach into everyday lives of American families, because education in this country, of which the Department of Education is certainly a part, tries its best to treat factual information, whether it's historical or scientific or literature, and the Christians don't want that. Especially the Christians don't want anything said about slavery, about the way white Christian Europeans completely tried to completely eradicate the people they found living on this continent when they first got here. The Christians don't want that known. Oh my God, no. You're supposed to keep believing in this Thanksgiving horse shit where Squanto or somebody was so nice to the white invaders and they all sat down and ate some birds together, which is total bullshit. But, just like Christmas is total bullshit. Now, I celebrate the winter solstice, and it just happens to fall around the time of Christmas, which is what the idea the Christians had when they stole solstice from celebrations from the pagan people, Celtic people. But I digress again. Anyway, the Christians do not want, the Taliban will not allow, ISIS will not permit education because it corrupts their corrupting story of religion, whether it's Christianity, Judaism's in there too. Come on. When I see these Orthodox, ultra-Orthodox Jewish young people sitting in what is called a classroom, studying Torah, davening back and forth and bouncing their poor upper bodies up and down, reciting and memorizing right down to the last comma, if Hebrew has any commas, which I don't think it does. But memorizing and reciting over and over until it becomes part of their DNA, the stuff written by the rabbis or whoever wrote this shit a couple thousand years ago. The Christians, the Jews, the Muslims, the Hindus, I mean, anyway, I don't want to go off on a rant. I'll try to contain myself. But the Department of Education in this country has been a target of the Christians for a very long time. And Trump said in the September rally in Wisconsin, quote, I say it all the time. I'm dying to get back to this. We will ultimately eliminate the federal Department of Education. We will drain the government education swamp and stop the abuse of your taxpayer dollars to indoctrinate America's youth with all sorts of things that you don't want to have our youth hearing. Amazing, isn't it? I don't think Hitler or Stalin ever was so blatant and direct about their plans to destroy education in their fascist states. I don't know. Maybe they did. But Trump has no hesitation in saying exactly what the Christians in this country have ordered him to say for their political support. And that is the elimination of the Department of Education. And especially the sentence when he said, when he said, we will drain the government education swamp and stop the abuse of your taxpayer dollars to indoctrinate America's youth. I mean, is that not completely the bullshit that comes out of a religious nut's mouth? Now, not that Trump is a religious nut. He's an asshole. But this is what the religious nuts have fed him to say. If there is indoctrination in this country, and there goddamn sure is, it comes from the Christians. God damn it. From the Christians. And from the political right, the fascist right in this country. That's where the indoctrination is coming from. From the left, the attempt is being made to, God forbid, educate. Now, if you think banishing or destroying or otherwise encumbering the Department of Education is a bad thing, that this orange bastard Antichrist is going to do, how about this? Trump plans to do away with the restrictions on ICE, the Immigration and Customs Enforcement, on ICE arrests in churches, schools, and hospitals. No, understand that. What Trump is going to do is lift that restriction so these federal police, ICE, can go into a church and drag people out who look, what, Hispanic? Well, they have a list of names. And probably 90% of these undocumented immigrants are going to be Catholic. So it means that the Catholic Church will be part and parcel of this, unless the local priest, if he's not raping little kids who are part of his congregation, unless the Catholic priest goes and bars the door so that the ICE agents can't get into the church to arrest people, pull them out of the pews. Schools, I have a hard time even imagining ICE agents showing up at a local elementary school, middle school, high school, with a list of names or photographs and going into and dragging students out of math class, English class, rehearsal for the school choir. How about hospitals? People who are in hospital, who are there for a surgery. And ICE agents show up and give the hospital administration a list of names, photographs. Where are these people? Well, this one's getting ready for surgery. Stop the fucking surgery. Is that possible? Well, maybe not stop the surgery. That would be committing murder, although Trump doesn't give a fuck about that. But maybe stop the surgical prep. Where is the person? Well, he's in the room. We're waiting to administer the pre-op relaxant. Oh, well, don't do it. We're here to arrest him. This is fucking madness. But this is what Trump says he's going to do. They're going to rescind that long-standing policy that has prevented ICE agents from arresting undocumented people at or near or in these so-called sensitive locations, houses of worship, schools, hospitals, or it doesn't stop there. Events like funerals, weddings. Oh my God. Now, this has been reported by a number of reporting agencies based on information coming out about this filthy bastard Antichrist Trump from 3 different sources of information who are familiar with this plan. And this is where Project 2025, remember the talk about that? That's disappeared, hasn't it? And the reason it's disappeared because the fascists are now in charge. So they're not going to allow that to be talked about. They're not even going to mention it. And American media has completely fucked up. Why aren't American media talking about this? The Project 2025 that they tried to warn us about is now about to be implemented. All of a sudden it's a non-topic. Now, the orange bastard, the Antichrist, the ones the Christians in this country just love and come close to worshiping, is planning to rescind that policy as soon as the first day is in office. This according to people who know what this fucker's going to do. And they spoke on the condition of anonymity because they're not authorized to discuss the change publicly. Of course. Now, in doing this, what Trump is going to do, this would be intended to increase the authority of ICE to arrest people across the country. And this is part of the Orange Antichrist's plan to carry out what he has said what he wants to be, quote, the largest deportation operation in American history. Fucking right. Schools, hospitals, funerals, weddings, nurseries, doesn't matter to me. Go get them. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. You know, the Progressive Voices Network brings you commercial-free commentary from today's leading progressive radio hosts and pundits, like me, Mike Malloy, 24 hours a day. I'm not your typical old guy from the 80s or the 90s talk radio host, and Progressive Voices is not your typical talk radio network. It's a listener-supported nonprofit with no corporate control whatsoever over our broadcast. So hosts like me, Mike Malloy, are free to rant and scream and carry on about whatever we like. We're often controversial, but we're never boring. Weeknights, 9 p.m. in the East, 6 p.m. in the West on the Progressive Voices Network. Always progressive, always on. I'm Mike Malloy. Keep it lit.